If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then the UK Property Market Stat Show, is for you. My name is Christopher Watkin, and each week I'm joined by someone who is huge in the estate and letting agency industry. This week I'm joined by Alice Bullard, who's the boss lady of Nested. We'll come to Alice in a second. What is the UK Property Market Stat Show? Well, the British are obsessed about the property market. Whenever we see a brand new for sale board, we're all on it, seeing what it's on the market for and having a nosy at the pictures. Whenever the Halifax throw out some stats or the Land Registry, it's front page news. The British are obsessed about the property market. The problem is that the stats that you see on the property market, the Land Registry, are looking at sales that were agreed 8, 9, 10, 11 months ago. The Nationwide and Halifax are looking at stats from sales that were agreed 2 or 3 months ago. Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at last week. So therefore, if you want a forward-thinking, foresight on the property market with lots of stats, then this is the show for you. This week, I'm joined by Alice Bullard, who is, I think this is her 5th or 6th show on the UK Property Market Stats Show. She's now part of the crew. And Alice is the boss lady of Nested. Nested is a self-employed estate agency model with nearly 100, not yet, but I'm sure there will be very soon, 100 self-employed agents around the country. I'm a big fan of self-employed estate agency for the right people. And Alice certainly knows her onions. Alice, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, really good to be back, Chris.
Bless you. Bless you. I think you were on the show just after Christmas. So we're now on a run up to Easter. So I'd be interested to see where we are with the stats.
Yeah.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking this week at week 14. Can you believe it? Week 14. Oh, dear.
Crazy.
Crazy. Week 14 of the 2025, which is, for the benefit of everyone, is Monday, the 7th of April, all the way through to Sunday, the 13th of April, and that's inclusive. We will be looking at where the week 14 standalone compared to other week 14s. We will also be looking at the year-to-date figures of week 14 compared to other years. Now, again, ladies and gentlemen, I must stress to you, unless you have been living in a cave, we are about to hit the Easter and bank holiday season, and you'll see it quite clearly from the graphs that for the next 6 to 8 weeks, the UK property market, in terms of its listings and sales and everything else, will go on a bit of a roller coaster. And then, as I said, we're then in the summer run. So don't be alarmed if you see the figures that are all over the place. That is quite normal, and we will show that it's quite normal in other years. The show itself lasts approximately 1 hour, give or take, depends how much Alice and myself ramble on. But it's roughly split into half. The first half looks at the UK property market, and then the second half is that we look at a town or a city and really deep dive into that estate agent population and see how well they're performing. Now, this week we're going to the beautiful town of Epsom in the south of England, in the home counties. Now, if you're not an Epsom estate or letting agent, you might find that rather boring. But before you do switch off from that section, most of you are watching this will be suffering from competitors who are overvaluing, competitors who are doing cheap fees, and you're looking for some method or tool to prove that you're a better estate agent. Well, the bit of kit that we're going to be using this on the show is a bit of kit that you could actually use yourself to prove that you're a better estate agent. We will show you that kit. I'm not being paid to push that kit, but it's a bit of kit that you can use to prove that you are the most awesomest estate agent, if there is such a word, in your town. But without further ado, Alice, let's go and start the first part of the show and go and look at this week's property market in the UK.
Let's do it.
So, Alice, you should be able to see the listings graphics. Confirm
Yep, see it.
Get going.
Yep, all good.
Right then, ladies and gentlemen, the way the show works is that we start off with listings, because everything starts with listings. I will just give some insight to the stats, and then we'll go over to Alice, and Alice will give her thoughts, and then we'll move on to price reductions, sales, fall-throughs, net sales, and everything else involved with that. So without further ado, here we go. So year to date, we are on 515,858 listings, which is 9% ahead of last year and 8.6% ahead of the more normal years, if there is such a thing, of 17, 18 and 19. We have put onto the market 41,134 properties, which looking at compared to other week 14s does look rather high. You can see here that, we're at we are on the 14th week of the year. 2020, you can quite clearly see here what was happening with regard to COVID, and that's the effect there. The average price of a property coming onto the market is 445,840. And then my favorite graph is we put all that into one graph. The white line is 2025. The red line is 2024. And you can quite clearly see that the red line here dipped down because Easter was a week early last year, than this year. Let's just confirm. Look, it goes down to 30. The week before, it was much, much higher. So listings are slightly ahead of where we are. Now, just before we come to you, Alice, let's just remind ourselves of where we are with regard to properties on the market. And what we're looking at here are the properties that were on the market on the 31st of March going into the 1st of April. And the yellow lines are the same 31st of March across midnight into the 1st of April, in the early mornings. So we can compare apples with apples. So again, we're at 705,000, which again alarms some people, but let's not forget in the global financial crash, that was about 1.2, 1.4 million. So not silly. I think we're at a Goldilocks moment. Right. Okay. Back to you. Thoughts on listings?
Yeah, I think look, overall this is really positive, right? I think that we some people might be slightly concerned that there might be too much supply and not enough demand, but I don't think we're there just yet. If I'm being honest, I think that what it really does come down to, though, is this is where good agents really need to be really mindful of marketing strategy because buyers do have more of a choice. So even more so, it's vital that your pricing is correct. And I think, look, for those viewers that might be watching or those listeners that might be listening who are maybe slightly concerned because they're not feeling like they're getting lots and lots of stock on the market, they haven't had that kind of feeling. Don't be alarmed. Have a look at the properties that have come onto the market in January, February this year. They are going to be coming to the end of their contracts. This is your opportunity to go in and swoop in and really kind of show your worth. So that's kind of my advice to those few people that might be feeling like they're not necessarily seeing those surge of instructions. But I think, overall really positive. Let's see what happens in the coming weeks. But I don't think we need to be too alarmed about the supply and demand. I think overall it's looking okay.
Interesting. I've just done whilst you were talking there, I just went on and got my stats. And new listings in March, because I always like to do with whole months, was 165,000, but the withdrawals was 64,000.
Right. Okay.
And what is I find that fascinating that and our favourite stat of the show, ladies and gentlemen, is that only 54% of properties that come onto the market end up exchanging and completing, which means you are only being paid on 54% of the homes you list. Scary as hell. And I know I'm like a broken record.
And that's what we're here for. We love the property industry, but this is your job. You're here to make money, and if you're not selling almost 50% of the stock that you bring on, you're losing money. So for those agents out there that are maybe wanting to bring up their supply, make sure that you're pricing properly, because otherwise it's completely a big fat waste of everyone's time.
And I think that's the thing is that we're all very good we're good at it winds me up that I don't know whether it's estate agents' ego, the fact that they just can't bear to lose a listing, that they'll do anything to get the listing, is that not only are they affecting their pay packet, they're affecting their reputation, and you're ruining people's lives.
Yeah, I think it's the system, in all honesty. I think it's the system that people find themselves in a lot of the time. Look, not all the time, but I think a lot of the time. And, I used to work with valuers at a big corporate estate agency business that they would get paid on listings. That would be what their commission, part of their commission package would be made up of. So you can understand why sometimes that's the case when you've got a boss at the end of the week that's saying how many instructions you're doing, and that you feel like you need to hit your target, and that's the reason why you've gone in at 50, 60 grand higher than what you think it's probably going to sell for. But yeah, ultimately it's a big fat waste of everyone's time, your time,
Yeah.
vendors' time, reputation, everything.
I posted something a couple of days ago called Big Estate Agents, and I was basically saying, the bigger agents that pay,
Mm,
they pay listing bonuses, they pay
mm,
bonuses on
yeah,
listings. They pay bonuses on price reductions,
yeah,
and I can't. And I said I can't blame you because you're only working within the parameters of what
mm,
you're working for. I blame the big bosses of the big firms.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's
interesting.
it's short-sightedness, I think. I also think there's an element of, the old way of doing it. I wasn't around 20 years, but I think you find that the system, people have got their set ways, and it was all about instructions. It was all about board outside the property,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and
If you
and,
ain't
and
got
our times have changed.
Yeah, if you ain't got it, you can't sell it, was I was always told.
Yeah, exactly. Times have changed. We've moved on. We're a lot more astute, a lot more aware of actually the outcome and the final. I always say that for me in my business, the most important metric, the number one metric, is completion rates of the cohorts that we have every single month of the listings that come on. What are the completion rates that end up being in 6, 7, 8 months time, and how are those tracking? That is the most important stat within your business. And if you are running your own company, if you are a negotiator in a branch, if you're a branch manager of a branch, make sure you know what your completion rates are, and ask your boss if you don't know, if you're not exposed to that in your KPIs, because that is really where, as you said, Chris, the gold really is. That's where the money is in your completion rate.
Absolutely right. And yeah, it's the bosses at the big firms that are driving it.
Mm,
But yeah. And there's no wonder that we
mm,
have such an awful reputation if we've got people. And you could say, well, these big firms, I mean, they've got 20% of the market, but they're in every market.
mm.
And normally they're in the top echelon of the market. So every other agent in the town feels compliant to follow them. And
Yeah,
no wonder we're only charging an average 1%. And what's the answer? The answer is this, ladies and gentlemen. The answer is to learn yourself. When was the last time you went on some training? And you don't have to spend anything. There's this new website. Take this down. YOUTUBE. Okay?
I had to write that. I had to write that out to register it in my brain.
Okay. There is shed loads of stuff out there. Have you done psychology of, we are in a sales environment. People say we're in a people business. So do you know how people scientifically know how they make decisions? I'm not saying you, I'm talking to everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you aware that 19 out of 20 buying decisions, the emotional side of the brain has to say yes first? So
Mm,
when you're trying to beat overvaluing and you're hitting the vendor over the head with comparable evidence, that's only going to work 1 in 20 times, because you have to get emotional buy-in first for them to listen to what the logical side says. Now, if you weren't aware of that, well, then all you are is a glorified order taker going around trying to charm people out the trees. No,
mhm.
there's so much out there that you can learn to make you better agents. And if your boss is not putting you on a training course, boo hoo. Yeah, I'm sorry. You take your own
Yeah,
personal responsibility. Stop watching Cats on Roombas, although they are really good films. I do like watching those, and start learning. Okay.
yeah,
Just
absolutely. Do you know what? I think, Chris, our industry actually has got better at taking control of their own career over the last couple of years. I can see it and I can hear it more vividly in the industry. So if you haven't done that yet, and if you haven't started that yet, do it. take
All
control
about
now.
personal responsibility. Right. Let me step off my soapbox and let's get back on price reductions. Okay. So we do this once a month. We did this, and at the moment we are reducing 13% of the properties that we put onto them. So 13% of the properties market in March reduced. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The average price of the property being reduced is 401,000, and we've got 24,856 reductions. But again, that does seem a lot. But remember, stock levels are higher, ladies and gentlemen. Let's remind ourselves, stock levels. Here we go. So this is why I always put this graphic on.
The percentage is the most interesting graph.
That is.
Yeah.
Again, I always find it interesting that this, you can see when Christmas is, that it always drops there. Amazing.
Yeah.
It's like we all go on holiday. This is like a seasonal thing. I don't know why. Again, I don't, 13%, not good enough, ladies and gentlemen. Not good enough. When you consider that we're only shifting, we'll come on to that in a second, but we'll just show this. We're only shifting 16% of the properties that we are got on our books. So basically, out on the properties on our books, we are selling 16% of them, and we are reducing 13%. There'll be a tiny little crossover there, like a good Venn diagram. So really, at the end of the day, what's happening to the other 61%?
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in a few weeks' time after Easter. I wonder whether it's slightly has it dipped from like 16%, which is still not good enough, a few weeks ago to 13. Is that? I can't remember. A couple of weeks ago when I was watching your show.
Is this the sector rate or the?
No, sorry. I'm going ahead at the percentage of stock decreased in price. I wonder whether we'll see a bit of an uptick in a couple of weeks' time after Easter, whether agents and sellers are holding off reducing their property prices until after that Easter period. I wonder. It'll be interesting to see. It was a debate that some of our agents were having on our Slack the other day about when the best time is to reduce over the next couple of weeks. So, but even so, it needs to be higher.
Again, let's just remind ourselves, just before I do that, I've done this exercise. So my daytime job, I know you know this, but watching might not. My daytime job is I ghostwrite articles on local property markets, and then the agent then publishes it under their own name to be the local property expert. Now, I've done this graph on 120 locations around the UK. Okay, and what is interesting, it's almost identical wherever you go in the UK. Almost identical. And I find it fascinating that it's all cookie. Very, very how the market. Well, our market's different. You'll find.
Yeah, very small areas across the UK have their own little market. There are some areas, but yeah, like you said, 99% of areas are very similar.
Good stuff. Right. Okay. Let's move on. And I was about to get on my soapbox, but no, I'm going to say.
I really like it when you get on your soapbox, Chris.
Come back to me. Okay. Here we go. Hold on. Let's just. Okay. Let's remind. Okay. This is another huge stat, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready? Here we go. If a property sells within 25 days of it coming on the market, its chances of it subsequently making it through to exchange of contracts is 94%. If a property takes more than 100 days to achieve a sale, the chances of that sale actually exchanging and completing goes down to 56%. So those listings that you're putting onto the market and chancing your arm, you go for it. You go for it. But the magic thing is this: even if it does drop it and you do sell it, you've gone from nearly a 95% chance of getting your cash to just over a 1 in 2 chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good stat to be talking to your vendors or your potential clients when you're in their living room and you're talking through the marketing strategy, because that's really interesting. They won't be getting that type of stat from the average estate agent that's coming in, and that really kind of shows it backs you up with your marketing strategy if you believe that you're giving the right advice. No person wants a flip of a coin or a red or black. Am I going to sell my property? Do you want to sell? Do you want to be in for a 94% chance of selling your home? Well, yes, I do. Okay, fab. Then this is the strategy that we need to undertake. So yeah, I think that's really interesting.
Remember, ladies and gentlemen, your credibility is gained by the questions you ask, not by the statements you make. So therefore, if you want to come across as the most credible estate agent, you need to be asking those difficult questions.
Mhm.
Okay? And that's
Yeah.
why, so you ask the question, how do you feel? Are you aware that there are that the average in the UK is a black or red flip of the coin? Do you
Mm.
feel, do you think that's good enough? No.
No.
Let me talk.
Do you want to be in with a 94% chance? Yes. Okay, great. This is what we should talk
So,
through then.
so should you be putting a house on the market where the vendor says, well, we'll just chance our arm and see how we get on? Um, the when I were a lad, there was the magic triangle, okay?
Mhm.
Okay, and so you got a triangle there, okay?
Mhm.
Okay, and my boss always used to say, you only put a house on the market if you've got two of the three ends of the triangle, okay? So
Mhm.
the one at the top was price,
Mhm.
and one corner was the word fee, and on the
Mhm.
other one was vendor motivation. And you only put the property on the market if you've got two of those three.
Mhm.
If you haven't, if the fee's high but the price is high but the price is rubbish and the motivation, you ain't getting paid. So the only
Yeah.
thing you're getting is your ego being rubbed.
Mm.
Okay. Remember, state agency is Tinder for ugly people. I didn't get the what's name, but at least they like me. Okay. It's true though. If
I've
the
never heard that before. Have you said that before? It
it's
just
not
come to your head, Chris.
it's not my line. It's from chat from I interviewed a chap called Benjamin Dennehy. It's my most
Oh,
watched video. It's got like 20,000 views. And that's his
yeah,
line. Okay. So again,
great.
if you've got a motivated vendor and the price is right, it doesn't really matter if the fee's not the best because you're going to get it sold anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if
Mhm.
the fee's good, but it just guys and girls, write the triangle.
There's some great old school estate agency tactics out there and ways to think about things. I've never heard of the triangle before, but I think it's a good one.
Ladies and gentlemen, okay, we've got Tinterweb. We've got these bloody things.
Mm.
Okay. We've got Rightmove and portals as opposed to newspapers. But the one thing that has not changed is people.
Mm.
Okay. And therefore that magic triangle. I used to actually have it old school on a A4 foldy out thing, and I used to have it stuck in the corner. I remember
Yeah.
looking at it, and I tell you what, if you don't disgrace it, it won't disgrace you.
Yeah.
All right. So that's one for the nested boys and girls. There you go. I'll have to come to the next conference, just do a little triangle like that,
The
or a
little triangle, yeah.
triangle like that, guys and girls. It is. Anyway, tell you what, God, we're hardly getting on with the show here. We're having a good time.
Yeah.
I
I
would.
always find this is the case with me and you. We just love to go off on a bit of not a tangent. We stay on topic, but
Don't worry about it. No one watches the show anyway. Right, let's go to the sales. Okay, so 27,289 sales. Okay, year to date, 369,857, which is 14% ahead of last year and 22.2% ahead of 17, 18, and 19. Okay.
Mhm.
The white line on the graph here shows us 2025 compared to the turquoise line at 24 and the pink line at 23. And we've also got 17, 18, and 19. We haven't brought in the 2021 and 22 figures on this. We do bring those in on the net sales, ladies and gentlemen, because some people have said, are you hiding it? No, just a bit cleaner. Can you see, Alice, here? The
Mhm.
roller coaster, as they say in the Northeast. This section here is basically, so it will go, next week. It'll be next week because it's Good Friday this
Mhm.
week. She'll
Yeah.
come crashing down to 20, then she'll bounce back up again, and then
Yeah.
when we've got a couple of May bank holidays up and down like a
Hmm.
towers ride, it's all good.
Yeah.
Um, we'll just do this, and then we'll come to you in a second.
Hmm.
Resi, the Resi sell through rates. This is the percentage of homes. This is the percentage of homes that you have sold from your existing properties on the market, and we're at
Hmm.
16.6%, somewhere around now. I'll put the exact number in the write-up, ladies and gentlemen, which is be accompanying this. We'll just do the. No, we'll come to the prices in a second. I mean, considering I mean, that's pretty good, isn't it?
It's pretty good. You're 14%. Do you say 14% ahead of this time last year?
Yep.
I think, all the naysayers that were going to say that, things are going to get really bad after, stamp duty, etc. That's clearly not the case. There's clearly buyer demand out there. There's some talk about hopefully next month in May, the base rate coming down, and we've already seen some mortgage lenders reduce their rate. So I think certainly some reasons to be very positive as a buyer in this market, and that's obviously coming through with these stats. Again, though, it's about right. They've got choice, right? We've seen the stats at the beginning of the show with number of listings. They do have choice on what they want, what they want to go out and buy. So, again, making sure that you're pricing that stock correctly, and grabbing those buyers and making sure they're buying your stock is important.
Absolutely bang on there. Well, a quick look at the prices are being asked. Right, the red line is the average asking price of the listings. The
Mm.
orange line is the average asking price of the sale when she went from listing to sold subject to contract. I know you're going to say, well, we don't know what it's sold for, but again, I'll say this on every show. We've got some stats from Hamptons that looked at the countrywide stuff. All their sales, they're a big old chunk, and apart from COVID, the average gap between asking price and the price achieved is always between 1% and 2%, and it's pretty tight
Mm.
there. So and again, just the gap between it is a little bit concerning. Look, the average price this week that sold properties 364. Last year it was 408. But look, the average prices of coming on the market. What are we saying there, ladies and gentlemen? What we're saying, look, 22%. Bigger
Mm.
properties are not selling as much as baby ones. That's always been the case,
Mhm.
but it's just that now some of that is overvaluing, and some of that is just the fact that there's more bigger, posher houses coming on the market. Now, interestingly, in the next few weeks, I've got some data from my friends at 20EA, and we've done some analysis. This is going to excite you, so I hope you're sitting down. We've done some analysis. We know the overvaluing stats on the property that exchange contracts. I've now managed to get the data for the overvaluing stats for the ones that don't sell, and it will blow your mind.
Interesting. When's that coming out, Chris?
When I can get off my backside and find half a day to actually crunch the raw numbers to get to and do something. Yeah, yeah. It's very intriguing.
Are you going to include that in one of your stat shows, or?
I'll probably check it out as on a post on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Follow me,
Okay.
and then I'm sure it'll weave its way into the show because I
Yeah.
love stats. Okay, don't call me stat for nothing. Okay, there's fall throughs now again.
This is interesting. This is the one that I want to see whether it's changed since last week.
Okay, then. So, ladies and gentlemen, we had stamp duty. Everyone was running around like headless chickens.
Mm.
Then the sales are going to fall through. There you go.
Mm.
Nothing.
No,
No story here, kids.
no. What percentage are we on? It was 4% last week.
So 22.99 for the week. Okay. So again, remember that
Well,
is
we were 4% above or something that we expected it to be.
it was 4%. I mean, but again, 4% on it was I think it was
Yeah,
about 100 or something, or
yeah.
is it no, it was about 200 more
Small.
than I expected.
Yeah.
And the number that we got this week, which was hold the line caller. Here we
Mhm.
go. Hold on. Here we go. The number this week was honestly, I've got a huge 6,275. Last week it was 6,583. And again, that has been running at around 6.2, as you can
Mm,
see, for most of the year. So
yeah.
we had a bip up there, but again, this is not concerning me at all. The
Hmm.
Again, I think a more important stat is the percentage of your sales pipeline that fell through, and we are on just under 6%. Where you can see there that there is hardly any. We do that on a
Yeah.
monthly basis. Yeah, nothing to see here. There was the doom and gloom merchants,
Hmm.
unfortunately. You know,
We're wrong again.
well, bless them. They do like a good story. So there's your fall throughs. Again, any fall throughs are bad fall through. And please, anyone that's watching it, if you haven't looked at reservation agreements, more for you. They'll get your sales part, you'll get your fall throughs down from, well, you can see 22, 23% down into single digits. You're going to say, well, does it not tie buyers and sellers in? And can it be used on chains? Guys and girls, if you just speak to them, there's all get out of
Hmm.
jail cards for genuine reasons. This is stopping the person saying, if you don't exchange tomorrow, I'm going to pull out, knowing damn well you can't do it, but they won't. Then they have to pull out because they look like prats.
Yeah.
Because if you give ultimatums, it doesn't work. That stops that. Please,
Yeah.
guys. There's plenty on the market. There's plenty of them on the market. My favourite, and I don't receive commission, but the one I particularly like is Brian Mansell from Gazelle. And why do I say that? Because a lot
Mhm.
of clients love him and love what he does, but more importantly, he teaches you and the staff how to do it.
That's the key. That is the most important thing because I think reservation agreements. I think everyone thinks, oh, it's like entering into a contract straight away, which means that no one's allowed to do anything or have an opinion during the sales process. No, that's not the case. You are not expected to just move ahead towards exchange and completion without all of the due diligence that you would expect and that your mortgage lender expects you to do. It is about the educational piece on actually what it means. And, of course, you can't sell it to a buyer or a seller if you don't understand it yourself. So yeah, get someone involved that can actually teach you and make you understand and what are those common objections and how you handle those common objections. That's the key to it.
Indeed. Right, let's move over to net sales, ladies and gentlemen. Net sales are gross sales less fall throughs. And this
Mhm.
week we are on 200. These are your exchanges, ladies and gentlemen. This is what you're going to work for.
Yeah.
Obviously, helping people's lives and changing them, obviously, but we're
Mhm.
not a charity here, ladies and gentlemen. 282,256, which is 11% ahead. It was
Mhm.
10% ahead.
It was 10 last week. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gone up.
Well, there you go. And we like
Yeah.
that. So
Hmm.
15.9% ahead of 24.25. So again, the year to date on gross sales is 22.2. On net sales, it's 15.9. Why? Because we've got bigger pipelines. We're still having the same fall through rate, but by the nature, you're going to get more. You're going to get the net a bit lower on that. So it doesn't necessarily concern me. As I said, 21,000, to say that we are within a gnat's whisker
Mm.
of 2022, which was a damn good year, because
Yeah.
remember, interest rates had, um, we hadn't had that silly budget in 22,
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
and we hadn't have had the interest rates of early summer 23. To be within a gnat's whisker, that's really, really good. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
It's really good.
Okay, so this is the year-to-date figure, and again, the white line here. And ladies and gentlemen, all these graphs are available for you to download and use internally in your office and also at valuations. What I do ask is that you do not use them on social media without my express permission. And the reason being is that my fee-paying clients that get me to write content locally, I give these to them as an optional extra. If you want to use these on social media, and you're not a client of mine, I don't mind you reaching out to me. And if I do not have a client in your town, as a gesture of goodwill, I'll more than happy for you to use those graphs. But if you don't, I'd politely say, I'm sorry, I can't. So please do, if you want to use them, reach out. Okay. Again, let's just have a look where we are. So we're about to go into Easter and May bank holiday season. You can see the yellow line, that was in free fall because of COVID. The green line is 21, which is the crazy year. So yeah, it's not bad. As you say,
Yeah.
year to date, look, Okay, we're not
Yeah,
at 238, but we're not far off 22, which was
yeah,
a damn
good year.
good year before Liz buggered it up. Okay, let's a couple of extra graphs here. Gross sales as a percentage of listings and price changes as a percentage of listings. I'll just put these in. Your percentage chances of selling. I said last week we will need to revise our figures on the exchanges. I know for a fact that that number is going to be probably much higher, knocking on the door of late 60s, because the exchanges that what happened at the back end of March are now
Yeah.
coming through on my stats. So I will revise that one. But remember, it's going to be a spike up here, but it was an exceptional month because this thing called stamp duty. I'm sure you know, no one's heard of it. Don't worry about it. So again, this graph will show it differently next week. Okay. Let's just remind ourselves on our pipelines, 467,000 properties in our pipeline. And again, you're going to say, oh, Chris, what about the fact that sales are taking longer? They are taking just as long as they were in 17, 18 or 19, 18 to 19 weeks. Okay, it hasn't changed that much. This is the pound per square foot. And again, we mentioned this last week. The orange line is, if you want to see the direction of house prices, follow that orange line, because it will tell you what the land registry will say in 5 months' time with an accuracy rate of 92%. So if you just watch this show for one thing, just come for this section to watch the orange line, because we know when the bottom and the top of the market is months and months in advance. Okay, final words on this section about the UK property market.
Yeah, look, as I said at the beginning, I think this is, overall, we're in a really positive place. We've got rising stock, there's seller confidence, which is great. But I think the important thing is to make sure that you realise that this is not an opportunity to put your feet up and lay back. That you need to be making sure that your strategy on your properties is correct, because we're all here to make money, and only agents in this market are going to that are good, that are going to be earning the money in Q2 and Q3. So I think one thing you take away from this conversation we've had personally, my advice to people listening and watching is know your completion rate. If you don't know it, go and find someone in your business that can give you the data to tell you what it is, and set yourself a goal and a target to be pushing that up higher than what it is, because that is when you are going to be making the money that you want to be earning.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is a beautiful segue into the next section where we go to Epsom. And the reason that is that probably, as I said, I 100% agree with you. You're so right that the most important metric is, I call it the exchange to listings ratio. You'll call it the completion to listings ratio.
Completion rate.
Same blend. It's completion rate.
Yeah.
Same stat. For every
Yeah.
100 properties that you put on the market, how many end up do you getting paid on? Okay. And we're going to be using a bit of kit to actually measure that in Epsom, okay? But anyway, without further ado, let's go to Epsom.
Let's do it.
Okay, Alice, I know you've been here a number of times, but for those of you who've not seen this part of the show, we use a bit of kit called Insight. Insight is from a firm called 20EA. 20EA have a number of platforms, one of which is Insight. Insight, in my words, is Rightmove Plus on steroids with lasers and glitter balls and a couple of rockets attached to it. Whilst Rightmove Plus looks at the last year and a month, this looks at the last 5 years and the current year that we are in. And it really does deep dive and look at your stats and not just raw numbers, easy sales, easy listings. It compares and contrasts them with your competitors into something that does look absolutely amazing. So if you want to know where you're going, then this bit of kit is for you. I must stress to you that I am not on commission with 20EA on Insight, although I bloody well should be. I think I'm their best salesperson. No, joking aside, ladies and gentlemen, they give me this kit free of charge, so to enable me to do the show that you've seen in the first part of the show. And then I use this kit live to look at a town or a city and do the analysis. They have a number of versions of this. They have a free version, which looks at the last 3 months. They have a town where I think they have 10 postcodes. You can have a region, and then you can have the whole UK. The one that for the 10 postcodes, I'm not going to mention any prices because I'm not on commission. But I tell you here and now, I think it's damn good value for money. Damn good value for money. In fact, I think it's a bit cheap myself, but who am I to say? But please, if you like what you see, don't mention my name. Right, okay. So the analysis that we're going to use is on Epsom. So without further ado, let's go and have a look at those stats. Okay, so the postcodes that we are looking at, KT 17, 18, and 19, okay? And let me explain what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. And then Alice, as always, just cut across the bows if you see something.
Yeah.
Okay, or you
I
want
will do. As a heads up, Chris, I'm not being rude. I've put this onto my big screen so I can really see all of the data rather than on the smaller screen as a heads up.
Fantastic. That's what I like to see. There you go. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're an agent and watching this on your phone, you will not get the benefit of this. You really do need to be seeing it on a decent sized screen. Okay. So we are looking at the 1st of the 1st, 2020 to the 15th of the 4th, 2025. The postcodes that we've already mentioned. With regard to new builds, we're going to switch those off because that just muddies the water. Average price of a property that's come on the market since the 1st of Jan 2020 has been 582,371, and there's been 10,443 properties that have come on the market with an average pound per square foot at new instruction of £543 per square foot. You can see here on this graph here how the different months go and what the listings levels are like. So again, let's ignore April because we are not through the whole month, and you can see here that in March 2020 132 properties came on the market. In March, start again, 132 in 2020, and you can see how that moves as you go across the screen. There is actually, ladies and gentlemen, a button here, I won't press it today, called stock on the market, and that then blows that up and looks at it in a lot more detail and puts it in a line graph. It's great to see. You can see that the dominant price range of properties that are coming on the market is in that 600 to 750 mark. And then classic bell curve, slightly weighted more towards, to the left. But again, these are the numbers 600, that's a 250,000 range, while these are more like 100,000s and these are like 50s. So if you put that into pure 100s, you would have a classic bell curve. Let's move on and let's just see who the big boys and girls are.
Someone's got a large market share there, haven't they?
Haven't they? Yeah. So let's just remember this, 582. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the top, not every agent, but the core agents in Epsom and see which agent is pulling trees up. Now, immediately we're looking at the personal agent. So let's just have a look at there. Well, I have to admit that that's a decent, steady, consistent rate, isn't it?
It is. It is. I have heard of them actually. I have heard of them. I think they're an independent, but they've got several branches, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, let's just have a quick look.
I'm quite attracted to their name actually, Chris. The personal estate agent. I think it's
Let's just have a look at that. Let's just have a look at Epsom. There we go. Can you see Can you see me looking?
Yes, yeah, I can see you, yeah.
Okay then. Okay.
Yeah, so they've got the covering Epsom, Banstead, Worcester, Park.
Yeah, I mean, what is interesting is this. It's the classic, do you have one Facebook or do you have one per branch? The ideal is one per branch. But then the problem there is if one branch is really rubbish at putting content up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of videos here. Oh,
that's good to see.
Yes. Now I'm not going to play. I played. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I like that they're putting their agents at the front and centre, which is good.
We are in a people business.
We are.
Yeah, I'm liking that. I'm sure the Zoom doesn't allow this. There's a talk over on this. Yeah, I'm liking this. Who's
This
that?
is really good to see a high street agent doing this kind of thing, right? We tend to see the self-employed models doing this more so than the high street. So to see a high street agent adopting some of that strategy, it's clearly working for them with the line market share they have.
Indeed. I'm flying the ointment here, ladies and gentlemen. Don't wear sunglasses. You're not okay. People like to see the color of your eyes. Okay.
Even on a sunny day, Chris, to make sure that you don't harm the cataracts.
That's the thing. The point is
Yeah.
that if, you know them superstars that wear the glasses.
Yeah.
You're not trying to connect. Please,
Yeah, agreed.
please. Yeah. So, but I tell you what, damn good video. I heard that when that was
Hmm.
coming through. Who's this young man here? Okay. Oh, I'm liking this.
Brilliant.
Me likes. Right.
Nice. There we go.
Yeah, we like that. Okay. So personal brand. So here we go. Hold on. So where were we? Back to back. There we go. So the personal agent, 22.56% of the market. I mean, some months 30, some going down as 20. Okay, let's go look at Cairds. So Cairds were on around a 10 or 15% mark. I'm noticing there that their market share for listings has drifted slightly from around the early to mid-teens to around the just under, the single late figures.
Mm.
615 as opposed to 582. Just remind ourselves the average is 581. So looks like the personal agent is a middle of the road taking everything on the market. Cairds at 615, slightly posher, so more of the same,
Yeah.
more sensors. Okay, let's go look at Barnard Marcus. Okay, was that Christmas? Classic Christmas there. Tunnel Sequence Group. Looks like you had a cracking listings month there. So again, nice and steady there, not putting any trees up, but around the 10 or 15% mark. That is nice and steady at 502. Let's go look at Jackson Noon. Okay, that looks like a COVID spike.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we often find on these is that might have been one agent that put quite a few. You saw in the start to show the listings were really low, so there might have been an agent that put a load of houses on the market. But I would say that is generally a trend downwards.
Mm.
Yeah. So again, Jackson Noon, it looks like, I'm not criticizing, but it looks like your market share is drifting. Okay. Nichols Residential. General
Okay.
trend goods. Okay, general trend. Price 447, so more of a Tesco's, Sainsbury's sort of agent. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, general growth. Okay, let's go look at
Good to see.
Hamptons. They're the posh boys and girls.
Hmm.
So you had a good 21 and 22, but it's been drifting
You,
down.
you would always think that Hamptons would be a good brand that would do well in an area like Epsom. So yeah.
Cambridge, nice and steady growth. Looks like you had a
Mm.
banging month there. Was that a Boxing Day one? We never know. That's a general.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give you that. Mark Antony,
Yeah.
light drift downwards there. 606.
Hmm.
We'll just look at the upper quartile in a second. Okay, Michael Everett. Okay, again, a slight drift downwards. Now, things later, this is going to get a bit spiky now. And purple bricks. We'll just have a quick look at northwards.
Hmm.
Again, quite erratic there. Right, let's have a quick look at the upper quartile. Okay, because it's only fair that we do that.
Hmm.
So we probably end up not being upper quartile, might be upper quintile. We'll see how we get on. I'm looking for about 1.5 or 2,000 in the property count.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. So right, let's have a look there. So now this is fascinating, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so doesn't look like, I don't think we can. There isn't much over 2 million. Let's bring in the million mark. That's nice to see. That's very rare for the volume agent to
Yeah.
be dominant in the posh end. Okay,
I think you said in your last episode that Exeter was one of the only areas. We've got Epsom now
yeah.
showing that too.
I would say that's not as definitive. That is not
But
as definitive
because
as
of the volume.
okay. But I'd
Yeah.
say that's not bad at all. So that's good to see. Let's just bring in the 750. Now all of a sudden the personal agent is coming in. So that's obviously their core market. Let's just have a quick look. Wait, look at that. That is impressive to see.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's just do that. So the core market, 500 to 1 million. Yeah, it's the personal agent all the way. CADS looks like, as I said, slight slippage there. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not criticizing. We're just looking at the stats and making comments on it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just have a quick look at if there's been any any newbie agents making any putting any trees up. So we'll just do that a second. So there we go. So we'll look at the last 12 months. Is there any agents who are pulling trees up that we haven't recognized? Northwards are doing. Just have a quick look at Northwards. No, I'm sorry, guys. Looks like you had a really good there. Looks like you had a really good April there, but that's what's probably brought you into that there. There's any EXPs? Oh, look, there's a little EXP.
Oh, that's good. Good to see.
Okay, so you got 2 or 3% of the market. Well done, guys and girls. That's what we like to see, who the EXP agent is there. Right, let's move on and just see the next screen. Now, this is my favorite screen, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of data here, and I just want to spend a little bit of time explaining what's happening here. Okay, so we are looking at your exchanges in the last 2 years and your withdrawals in the last 2 years, okay? We just happen to put them in the order of your new instructions, okay? Let's ignore that column. We're just showing the biggest at the front, okay? And the metric we're using is new instruction. We've done market share, new instruction market share, and we've done sale agreed numbers and sale agreed subsequent the percentage of contract. Again, ignoring those, because just because you slap a sold board on it, don't mean you got the money. This is where the magic happened. This is true magic. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So if I know you know the answer to this one, Alice, but humour me. You add up the exchange figure to withdrawn figure, that adds up to
100%.
100%. Absolutely bang on. Tell you what, right. Why is that? Because the only reason a property leaves an agent's book if she exchanges or withdraws. So if you recall at the start, start of the show and the middle show, this is Alice's, what do you call it? Completion rate?
Completion rate. I call it completion rate. Yeah.
Okay then. Okay then. I call it the exchange to listings rate. Same thing. Right.
Same thing.
Now then, the personal agent are being paid on 60. The average in Epsom is 56.34. Personal agent at 68. I mean, come on, round.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you what, I'm getting we're gonna get some t-shirts today. I'll get you a nice t-shirt, fangirl, personal agent, and I'm gonna get a t-shirt fanboy. Okay.
Yeah.
These are impressive numbers.
This is really good. This is really good. Who's ever running this business and the type of people that you clearly got working within it are clearly doing a very good job at all the things that we discussed at the beginning of the show, of the things that you should be focusing on. And the fact that they're doing, as that high street agent, the different levels of marketing that we should be expecting to see nowadays with, you know, they've called themselves a personal agent, right? With the personal agent going that extra mile and doing additional things above and beyond shoving it on Rightmove, it's clearly making a difference to the stats that they've got coming up on these numbers here.
Absolutely bang on. Cairds are at 58, Barnard Marcus are at 47, Nichols are at 56, Cambridge at 65, Jackson Noon at 56, Hamptons at 53. Although, again, ladies and gentlemen, do remember Hamptons are in the posh end and the numbers are always lower. So just take that with a pinch of salt. Mark Anthony at 67. So that you're giving the personal agent a run for their money. Northwood at 61. And then we've got some others there. I mean, again, good to see the EXP agent at 61.
Yeah.
But again, this is really, really rare that the volume agent in Epsom, the personal agent, not only has the volume in listings, but their exchange to listings ratio or completion rate, as you would like to say it, is the best. This is really, really rare. And it goes to show you, looking at their marketing, is that they're using their personality in their marketing.
Yeah.
And if I was one of those other agents, I know exactly what I would be doing, because my daytime job is I use data to help estate agents grow their businesses. I know exactly what I would be doing if I was one of those independent agents in the top 10 on how to beat the personal agent at their own game. Okay, yeah, textbook stuff. If you play them at their own game, you're not going to win. But if you play a different game that's similar, you will win. And yeah, that's really, really good. Right, let's just have a quick look. Who's got fall through rate? The average fall through rate is 27%. So your fall through rate at 31 is slightly high, but that's quite nice and tight. There's nothing there. Who's on 18? Michael Everett. Well done, guys. You're in the 18s. But again, if you were a reservation agreements, we often see 5, 6, 7% in there. So again, do seriously consider it. Let's see who's valuing. The average is 42. Okay, 54 is quite high for Barnard Marcus, but again, there you go. There's just showing. If you overvalue, and again, we'll look at the overvaluing screen in a second, because obviously there must be overvaluing because the price is coming down. Your withdrawal rate will be higher, and your exchange ratio will be lower.
Yeah, the chance of you selling the property, as you said at the beginning of the show, Chris, the first part, got 100 days on the market. If it's been on for 100 days, 56% chance of selling the property. 25 days, 94%. And that comes down to what you place it on the market for at the beginning.
I mean, just to give you an idea, okay, if Barnard Marcus was selling the properties at the same rate as the personal agent, your exchange wouldn't be 163, it would be 234. So therefore, let's just work. This is the power of overvaluing. That's a 71 extra exchanges. The average, I would say, the average fee in Epsom, that even if it was 1%, okay, average price 600 grand, which means, I'm just using this as an example for Barnard Marcus, is that your office would have earned 429,600, and you as what do you think is a fair commission at the moment for
I say around probably 10%, maybe.
Okay, so that's an extra £43,000 over the last 2 years you could have earned in your office.
Yeah.
That, ladies and gentlemen, not only have you overvaluing has meant that all those people haven't sold, but you have lost £43,000 in commission in the last 2 years because of overvaluing. Oh, it doesn't matter because you get paid commission on listings, don't you?
Some of them do, yeah.
I'm not saying Barnard Marcus there. I'm just saying, I'm just talking about a lot of agents get paid on that. But please, 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 we shouldn't be paid on listings. We should be paid on exchange. We should get the success when the client gets success.
Yep.
Right, okay, let's move on to, I was about to get on my soapbox, best got off it.
You've been on there a few times this call, so
now this is interesting.
Why not another time?
Right, here we go. Look, we talked about, let's see if the ratio. So this orange line here is the overvaluing stat. What are we being overvalued against, right? 20EA has a Valpal figure, others are available, on every property that's on the market, and then they look at what you put it on the market for and compare the difference. On the properties that Barnard Marcus exchanged on in the last 2 years, the difference between the price it coming on the market and what 20EA thought it was worth was 2.27 compared to the average of 1.61. Doesn't sound a lot, but that's 30 grand difference, okay? Hence, your price changes are higher, which means your withdrawals are higher and your exchange ratios are lower. This is proving beyond overvaluing hurts the client and hurts you. Okay, so isn't that interesting? Now, hold on, I've just spotted. So the average overvalue is 1.61 and the two big agents are at 183 and 179. Nichols are at 0.7. So here we go. Then the price achieved from the original asking price is this column here, okay? So what are we looking at here? So overvaluing by 1.83 and then 3.58 off the original asking price. So you take one off the other, but then agents don't, a lot of people don't like percentages. So what 20EA does is they say, right, if everyone put on a £650,000 house, what would you say? The personal agent, so the average is 638. So the personal agent are getting £2,792 over the average because they would get 638. Cairds 629, Barnard Marcus 635, Nichols at 637, and there's some baby agents here, and when you're doing the lower numbers, the numbers can go a bit skew with.
Mhm.
But that's
That's
quite fun.
yeah, like I said, Chris, if you've got access to this data and you're showing results like the personal agent above your second, most biggest competitor in your area,
This is powerful. You can say
really powerful.
without resorting to compare to your competitors,
Yeah,
you could say, I get £2,792 more than the average
more
Epsom.
than this. Yeah,
Okay. Should you use it against your competition? That's your call. It's not for me to say.
mhm.
Okay. If you are, there's certain ways you have to do it so you don't fall
Yeah,
foul of the law. But again, the personal agent are ticking the boxes here.
yeah. They're doing a great job.
Right, this is how the agents, how quickly they're getting the properties sold in the blue line. So let's just look at the personal agent because we were fanboys. So they're selling
Mhm.
quite quickly at 48 days. The average is
Mhm.
63 days. So again, the personal agent could say we're selling their house 13, 14, 15 days quicker than the average Epsom agent, 63
Mhm.
days, personal agent. All so the pink lines are how long it takes from sale agreed to completion. 105 days, personal agent, 138 days. You can see here, but I mean, look, Barnard Marcus, again, overvaluing, which but they are slightly upper end of the overvaluings, but only that, they're taking 75 days to find a buyer
Yeah,
and 144 days to get the sale through, which means the total completion time from putting the house on the market, new instruction to completion, is 219 days, whilst
yeah.
North 161 days. That's
Again, powerful stats if
that's
you have them and share them.
mid-60s, early mid-60s, somewhere around there.
Mm.
Difference. That's 2 months difference. So again, if more Northwood could probably market themselves as the agent that get you moves quicker. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything on that before we go and have a look at
I,
things?
nope.
Okay, just show you that. There you go. Last year, which was 23, took 59 days to get get a sale agreed, and 126 days from sale agreed to completion, and 63 days to get a new instruction through to sale agreed in 24 versus 128 days from sale agreed to completion. Right, let's look at lettings. There isn't that much data on lettings, unfortunately, but we'll just have a quick look at this. So the average rent in 2020 was 1,386, and in the last year it is 1,928.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big increase.
right then. Okay, let's just have a look. Right then, we'll let that come back. That's just requiring there. Right, here we go. So the personal agent. So, ladies and gentlemen, my specialism is helping estate agents using data to attract agents, to landlords and homeowners to them. So, what we're going to be using here is looking at the data and seeing what you tend to find is this: we can't measure portfolio size, but we can determine the portfolio by the number of properties that are coming on the market. Okay, I've got with lots of agents, so I kind of know what the formulas are. It's a bit regional, so we can work out what the size of the portfolios are, or what more importantly, if it's growing or dropping. So the personal agent there looks like you've been nice and steady between 21 and 24, but there's been a slight drop off in 24 here. Let's go look at heads. Again, a slight drop off on the portfolio. We'll come back to open rent in a second because I know what the answer is going to be. Lead, again, a slight drop off. Direct, slight drop off. Student lettings. So again, that's going to be spiky around the autumn mark. Barnard Marcus, Nichols, Michael Everett. I'll go down to number 20. Okay, right, let's go back, open rent. In 2020, 5% of the properties that were coming on the market were with open rent. Moment it is 24%. Now, I know you know this.
Huge.
I know you know this stat. But ladies and gentlemen of Epsom, for the last 2 years, we've been tracking every open rent property at 20 EA, and 51.2% of the properties that have come onto the market in open rent in the UK were previously on the market with a high street estate agent. What that means is, and also if you look at the official stats through the English Housing Survey, if you look at the stats through Land Registry, if you look at the stats through tax receipts and stamp duty, the number of landlord buy-to-let properties is still growing. It's not growing by much, but it is still growing. It doesn't feel like it is. The biggest issue is landlords are leaving letting agents and going to open rent. Now, the reasons behind that are multitude. Most of it comes down to is we don't actually show what we're doing for our money, and therefore landlords thinks it's easy. I'm telling you, I've done some videos on the Renters' Right Bill. There is massive opportunities with the Renters' Right Bill for you to get more listings and more properties on your books. But that is something for another day. If you want to go to my YouTube channel, type in Renters' Right Bill and EPC changes. I've got some videos on there that will help you. Before I give final words to Alice, if you are an Epsom agent and you would like to talk to me about growing your residential sales business and growing your rental business so you don't lose landlords and you attract landlords, and you also want more residential salespeople to give you, the vendors to give you a call for valuations, I can only work from one agent per town. Epsom is available. And if you would just like to have a 10-minute chat with me to tell you what I can do for you, my telephone number is 07950 147 572. If you don't ring me and one of your competitors do, then that's your call, but I can only work from one agent per town. Final words from you, Alice.
Yeah, Chris, as you just mentioned there, there's loads of opportunity in Epsom. If you're not number one agent, there's loads of opportunity there to start changing some of the things you're doing and going out and grabbing some more of that market share. Final thing from me, go and speak to Brian Mansell from Gazelle and understand some the clauses and everything that are in the reservation agreements. That is really super important that you do that. We bang on about that a lot. And go away and know your completion rate. Find out what that is if you don't know it. Ask your boss. Ask your boss's boss if you have to. What is your completion rate, or what do you call it, Chris? The stat you use?
Exchange to listing ratio.
Exchange to listing ratio, whatever you wanted to call it. That's number one big stat you need to know, and how you're performing.
Well, Alice, thank you for your time today. As always, you have been truly exceptional. We look forward to seeing you on the show very soon. But more importantly, thank you for watching the Stat Show, and we'll see you next week for week 15 of the UK Property Market Stat Show. See you now.